Boxing Ego here. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon on the top of your screen to get notified when the latest new content drops. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Now, make sure you guys like and subscribe. Shout out to PBC. Shout out to the winner, two-time, aka one-time, Keith Thurman, and also Danny Garcia for making the fight and making it possible. And thank you, Al Haymon. Now, I want to give my thoughts. As most of you guys have heard, the numbers came back, and Garcia-Thurman on regular free TV peaked at 5.1 million viewers at his highest mark. And it averaged the whole telecast, including the co-feature with Erickson Lubin, who got a knockout. The whole telecast averaged 3.1 million viewers, and then the Garcia, even though it peaked at 5.1, it was just under 4 million in terms of like the more continuous watching. So it was like 3.74 million people tuned in on average, the average number. So numbers came back, and these are excellent numbers. First of all, this is great for boxing because the thing that I told you guys at the beginning of this year in January, it's going to be a rough year for some of you guys. And that's writers, that's people who are allegedly media, YouTube channels, and it's all about tell the truth. Tell the truth. You got to tell the truth. Now, the reason I'm saying that is if it's good for boxing, it's good for me. That's just how I've always been. I'm a boxing fan before I started the journalism side and covering fights and trying to get exclusives for you guys and all the stuff that I do, right? I was just a pure fan, just a fan of the sport, right? And I like starting out like that because you have a different appreciation. But the purpose of like new media is because there's a lot of people in the media, writers, channels and stuff, and they don't necessarily tell the truth. You know what I mean? Some of you guys feel compelled to send me links to videos and articles. I don't read most of that. You know what I mean? I'm busy working on my own workload, and I don't like, sometimes I've clicked on them in the past, and that's why I learned, because I clicked on a video and then within the first couple of minutes, they're already talking crazy. So, you know what I mean? I have my own thoughts, and that's what it is. But like I said, if it's good for boxing, it's good for me. When it comes to, in the case of Al Haymon, aka Black Hitler, right? When it comes to Al Haymon, this man has been tarred and feathered. He's been outcasted, lambasted. People said this will never work. Premier Boxing Champs. Hey, you even had people when Premier Boxing Champs was first announced. You had people who were ignorant enough to say, you know what? Fuck these matchups. I'd rather pay for my boxing. Who says that? Like, if you have the choice to go to a movie premiere and watch the same movie for free because you got invited to a premiere, or pay regular outrageous movie prices, you know what I mean, $29 for 2 tickets and $8 for a large popcorn and stuff like that, you know what I mean, and someone was gonna say, hey, I'll give you the same experience, you get to see it, red carpet treatment, everything, for free, you know what I'm saying? And you have motherfuckers who really said they would rather pay. Oh, it's about quality. But this is the thing. Oh, what a difference a year makes. A lot of these people, you know what I mean, I heard it, I watched it. They said this will never work. Al Haymon, he's the cancer of boxing. He's running out of money. All he does is put up cherry-picked mismatches. Now, we could go through the main event fighters' whole career. Danny Garcia has a good resume, but there were fights that were controversial. I thought he lost to Herrera. Peterson fight was close. Some people feel a certain way. The Rod Salka fight never should have happened. You can look at Keith Thurman. I wasn't really a fan of the Julio Diaz fight. He was coming off an injury. Diaz, just a career lightweight. I didn't really give him much of a chance. Then the fight with Luis Collazo, I didn't really have a problem with that, but because I know Collazo and I knew he's a tough out, and he plays spoiler. We just seen that in his fight with Sammy Vasquez. A lot of people hated it. They said, oh, why is Thurman? He's calling out Mayweather. Why is he fighting Collazo? This on ESPN, yada, 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 right? But see what happens when the two meet in the middle, do what's right for boxing, do what's right for their division, and do what's right for the sport. They produce over 5 million in total viewership. for Garcia-Thurman. Now, you can say whatever you want about the fight, like, oh, I wish Keith Thurman, he was more aggressive or didn't get on his bike, whatever. But the fact is, this is the great thing, and I've used this exact analogy, and I'm going to say it again in case you missed it. If you, let's say you went to your boy's house and in his garage he cut your hair, and he did an okay job, right? But it wasn't as good as, I guess, going to the shop. But he didn't charge you nothing. Versus if you go to the barber shop and they charge you $25 for a haircut and it's not up to your liking, then that's an even bigger problem, because you just paid your hard-earned money, $25 for a cut. You told them exactly what you wanted and they did something else or pushed your line back or whatever the situation is, right? And that's my analogy for free TV and a lot of these PBC fights, sometimes on the premium networks like Showtime and HBO, versus pay-per-view, right? I've purchased pay-per-views, and then when I watched it, the whole card wasn't really worth it. The main event wasn't really worth it. And I'm like, damn, you know what I mean? I just paid $65 for this. But yet and still, you still had people within boxing, and they said Premier Boxing Champs sucks. It's just a downward spiral, and he's running out of money. And I told you guys before, and I'm going to say it again. Boxing and its fans aren't really hard. I mean, some of y'all motherfuckers are crazy and radical, but it's not really hard to gauge. If you make the fights that the fans are requesting and beckoning for, then you'll usually get better numbers, right? You put Canelo in there with Miguel Cotto, a name, a guy who has skills, a guy who's definitely a future Hall of Famer, and people believe he has a shot against Canelo, whether he does or not, but the perception is there, then guess what? Canelo Cotto, and it had a bit of a build-up because the fight fell apart maybe 2 or 3 times before it was actually set in stone and made. But that fight did just under $1 million. It did like 920,000, right? But you put another A-side, you put Canelo in there with Liam Smith, you put him in there with Amir Khan, who only had 3 welterweight fights, and the fight right before Canelo, he didn't look particularly good versus Chris Algieri, and then the numbers suffer. Still decent numbers given the fight and given the fact that people don't know Liam Smith or maybe didn't give Khan a chance, but it's not the same. Point blank, period. And I told you, this boxing stuff is really not rocket science. Now, I don't know what happens behind closed doors with some of the promoters. Maybe they're trying to protect cash cows or make this business fight or preserve somebody's win streak, whatever they're trying to build the fighter's confidence, whatever they're trying to do. But when you strip it down to the bare essentials, strip away all the inessentials, boxing is pretty easy to understand. You make good fights, you make competitive fights, even if they don't turn out to be as explosive or exciting, then it's usually going to do better, right? I mean, and there is a clause, like Ward Kovalev didn't really do the numbers, but some of it was the promotion. HBO didn't do any type of face-off. That's one of your longest running associated with boxing series that everybody knows and people like it. Kovalev speaks English. Ward's an American gold medalist. He speaks English. Why not do it? They've done certain Max Kellerman face-offs on HBO where neither guy spoke English. So we're talking about face-offs that are airing in America, and we have to read subtitles, which happens. You know what I mean? Neither guy speaks fluent enough English. But why would you not capitalize, since Kovalev speaks very fluent English? You understand what he's saying. He has that kind of temperament and mean streak. Ward is not no punk either. Know the guy, right? But the promotion maybe could have been better, but it's really not rocket science, and these numbers aren't shocking to me, but it's just funny. Like I said, like I keep saying, tell the truth. Tell the truth. Gotta tell the truth. Garcia-Thurman was an anticipated fight. It was a unification fight. It was somebody's O has to go with 2 undefeated fighters type of fight. So I'm not surprised at these, like Nate Diaz. I'm not surprised, motherfuckers. I'm not surprised by these numbers. These are good numbers. And the detractors are really running out of excuses. What are they going to say? Oh, it didn't do 10 million. It's free TV. It should have done 8 to 10 million. You know what I'm saying? They're always going to move the goalposts and recreate the rules when things aren't going. But you got to look at what they were saying before. Before they were saying Al Haymon is running out of money and PBC will be done for. But then a year passes, then 2 years, then it's going on its like third season or whatever, and it's still here and it's still doing numbers that we haven't really seen. Now, when HBO had Canelo Kirkland off the heels of Mayweather Pacquiao, so people already were in a boxing mindset, and they piggybacked off of Mayweather Pacquiao in the promotion. That's a fact. Oscar De La Hoya said things like, oh, if you were bored with Mayweather Pacquiao, this is the future of boxing. Canelo and James Kirkland, they'll produce action in case you were put to sleep by Mayweather Pacquiao. Because De La Hoya, you got to understand the mindset. De La Hoya wasn't involved with Mayweather Pacquiao, so of course he's gonna throw shade at it and knock it down and you know what I mean, make it sound worse and make his event sound better. But Mayweather Pacquiao was another fight that needed to happen, which is why it holds the records out of all pay-per-view events. It holds the records because people wanted that. They wanted it for 5 years. So I mean, as far as Garcia-Thurman, maybe they'll get a rematch. The fight was what it was. I'm happy with the numbers, and I'm glad for the exposure, but it's looking real ugly. You know what I mean? You don't even hear from some of the people that were not for it. You know what I'm saying? And like, that's what I never understood when it comes to boxing. Why would you not be for anything? And that's where people, when race and tribalism and favoritism and all these things come into play, that's what makes it bad, because people are willing to crash the whole bus just to kill a few passengers. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make sense. You want the whole sport of boxing to do bad just so you can say, aha, look at Ward Kovalev numbers. I mean, I want all this. I wanted Crawford Postal numbers to do good. I wanted Ward Kovalev to do good. You know what I mean? I don't care if it's on HBO, Nickelodeon. I don't care. Those are great fights for those divisions. They needed to happen. They were meaningful fights, and I wish they would do good. So as far as my part, I try to cover it, try to do the tell of the tapes and build interest and stuff like that, and I'm going to keep doing that. So same thing with Garcia-Thurman. I was Keith Thurman's media day. The coverage was here. I did a tell of the tape in November or October of last year, right? It has like hundreds of thousands views on it. So I try to definitely promote what's right for the sport of boxing, period. You know what I mean? And I always add my 2 cents, but I'm happy for Keith Thurman, and I'm happy for Danny Garcia to get this type of exposure, because this is what boxing needs, and I think this will help it grow. And it's just not looking good for the detractors who always have something negative to say. Wilder, I mean, real shit. PBC and Showtime have been holding it down. It really seems like HBO is almost trying to get out of the business of boxing, because they're not really providing their fans with diligent, concentrated content. And it's like, to me, it sounds like HBO is only going after sure shot type of fights. Like Top Rank, just Bob Arum recently said he had to put his fight with Oscar Valdez and Gilberto Ramirez versus Max Bursak and Shakur Stevenson on pay-per-view, because I guess HBO rejected it. So I guess he's running the reins, and he's gonna do it on Top Rank pay-per-view, I guess. But HBO's being extremely picky. They're like, nah, that's not big enough. But they're gonna put on Curtis Stevens versus David Lemieux because someone's probably getting knocked out, and that's what they've been pushing for, is like the action style and no step back, no defense, just brawl until someone gets blasted. You've seen it in the fight, their first fight of, I think, this year, the Miguel Berchelt versus former champion, WBC champion Francisco Vargas. So it seems to me like they're only going after those types of fights, or Canelo's a known superstar versus a guy with the superstar surname, which is Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. So they're going to do that on Cinco de Mayo. You know what I mean? If Ward and Kovalev want a rematch, they'll pick that up. But it's like they're only going after that type of market, sure shot type of fights, or fights that pretty much where no one has a defense, and it's like almost impossible not to have sustained action based on the styles of the fighter. But shout out to the Black Hitler, man, Al Haymon. These are good numbers. I remember last year the Errol Spence Jr. versus Leonard Bundu, that particular fight, it did 6 million, and that was immediately after the 2016 Rio Olympics, and people use that as an excuse, like, oh, that's simply because the 2016 Rio Olympics. You know what I mean? No shit. Who cares? It doesn't matter. The end result is still the same. And if you look at it, that's just smart marketing. Why would you not capitalize on another sporting event that the world watches every 4 years. You know what I'm saying? Like if I was a hot dog vendor and Beyonce has the biggest concert with special guests Lady Gaga and Jay-Z in San Francisco, and they're gonna be here, and I'm a hot dog street vendor, I'm gonna try to get my permit. I'm gonna try to be right in front of wherever she's performing and wherever that concert is, because I know people get hungry in line. You know what I mean? So of course you would piggyback off of something like that, and you're gonna be on the same network. This was all on NBC. That's by design. Al Haymon and his team, or whoever, they bought a certain time slot on NBC, even though they were affiliated with ESPN last year. They were affiliated with Fox, FS1, and different networks. They used a network that was telecasting the Olympics. That's brilliant, right? But now there's no excuse. This was a fight that was on Showtime's parent company, CBS, Garcia-Thurman, and it still did 5.1 million viewers, right? And in my honest opinion, I don't even know that it was promoted like I would do it if I worked for them. You know what I'm saying? Because like little stuff like they had an all access 4-part miniseries, and a lot of people, I even said it in the video, a lot of people didn't even know the all access, that they even had an all access. You know what I'm saying? And they just dropped it the week of the fight. So I don't know, that doesn't necessarily build the interest, but it still did great numbers. And this is not immediately following the Rio Olympics, so you can't use that. It did 5.1 million because it was a good fight, and it was a fight on paper people just really wanted to see, and a meaningful fight. It's not rocket science. This is how it works. You make the best fights, and fights that people want to see, your fights with known interest, then I think they'll produce the best possible numbers, period. And then you put it on a platform like free TV, it's really money. You know what I mean? And that's just great to get a mega fight like that. But I'd imagine like Errol Spence and Kell Brook, their fight should do good numbers on regular Showtime, because these are fights people want to see. So really shout out to Showtime, shout out to CBS. They did do a decent job of promoting it. I seen on their social media platforms they were promoting the fight, and they even spent some money to make these specials and stuff. I just see little stuff from doing this boxing and kind of knowing what the fans like. I see little stuff where they can improve on their marketing. But I mean, it doesn't matter because it still did 5.1 milli, and that's very solid numbers for a fight. And this is on free TV, so there's not really much to criticize for me. I think these are very strong numbers, and I'm looking forward to seeing what boxing has next. Now, Keith Thurman, if he fights the winner of Brooks Spence, depending on where they put that, that's a huge fight, right? I don't know if off of that performance Floyd Mayweather would come out of retirement to fight Thurman, but you know what I mean? Possibly something like that. That would probably be pay-per-view though. But PBC's doing their thing, 5.1 million. And just to put it in perspective before I close this video, this fight actually took place on the same night as a basketball game, right? And the basketball game, it was the Bulls game versus, who were the Bulls playing? I forgot who they were playing. I have it written down. 1 second. The Rockets versus the Chicago Bulls on the same night. And that game, an NBA game, which has a governing body, and everybody knows the NBA organization. The NBA game with the Houston Rockets and the Chicago Bulls did 1.7 million. And basketball, NBA particularly, is a reoccurring thing. You know what I mean? You can go on the NBA's website to see what their schedule is and what games and who's the home team and everything like that. Boxing just kind of pops up. There's no routine schedule. Things happen. People get injured. People pull out of fights. Things fall apart, like Manny Pacquiao and Amir Khan. So it's harder for boxing, that's something that's not routine or regular, to get stronger numbers, because it's not like a recurring sitcom or like a show like tune into Fox next Thursday for Empire. You know what I mean? And you know, each week until the season's up, you can tune into Fox to watch Empire or tune into Stars to watch Power or whatever. Boxing just kind of pops up and there's a big fight, and then they, you know what I mean, try to promote it and advertise it. But that's impressive. The Bulls Rocket game only did 1.7 million, and Garcia-Thurman peaked at 5.1. So shout out to them. Shout out to Al Haymon. Shout out to Boxing Ego. for giving you guys this? Nah. Let me know what you guys think. Drop it in the comment section. Make sure you share the video, like the video as always. Hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing off. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.